plus on your research so far here, Matt.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So in terms of kind of what I feel like might be most helpful for you, just kind of going into this conversation, is just by giving you a little bit of an overview as to kind of how we got into this space and a little bit of our history. So I always like to kind of start back at the beginning and work my way forward here, Sharif. So InMarket, as a organization, we've been around for about 13 years. And when we got our start, we were not looking to become a digital marketing company or move into the space. We were an owned and operated app company. We had built out a family of what we call retail facilitation apps. And it really took kind of a epiphany moment, honestly, of looking at the data that we were able to pull from our users and really seeing the value of transforming that into audiences and insights, that we made that shift and set a whole new set of goals for ourselves.
Right.
And chief among those was improving the quality of the audiences and insights that we had started building. So the best way that we knew how to do that was by bringing in location data as one of the data sets that we could build those reports off of. And we tried a number of different ways to secure that location data. And ultimately, what ended up working for us is building what's called a software development kit, or an SDK. So the SDK that we built is really at the core of just about everything that we do, Sharif.
Mm-hmm.
It allows us to garner the data from millions of users across the country, as well as market to those users in a way that is truly unique to InMarket. And that is through a little piece of technology called our Moments product. So Moments is a part of our SDK. It's integrated into every app that the SDK is. And really what it allows us to do, Sharif, is capitalize on that location data that we have, as well as the predictive modeling we can do around when someone is in a buying mode for one product or another.
Okay.
So the way that this looks in the real world, right, is one of our users goes out to the store to do their grocery shopping or whatever, and through our SDK partnered app that they have on their phone, we're able to deliver them a notification or a full display ad for a product that is hyper relevant to what they're shopping for. And what is really cool about Moments is that when we are delivering this ad, that user is typically standing 4 to 5 feet away from that product on the shelf right there in the store.
Wow.
So, that's typically the reaction I get from this. As I'm sure you can imagine, Sharif, it's a very high efficiency ad delivery method, and this is really what allowed InMarket to make a name for itself in the space. So kind of riding the success of Moments, back in September of 2020, we acquired a company by the name of Ninth Decimal. And Ninth Decimal were real leaders at the time in the measurement and attribution space. So we brought them on board to help us finalize the launch of our measurement and attribution product called LCI, which has been really incredible for us. It opened up an entire new line of revenue and has been getting some really great press, especially here recently. It won Media Day's Best Marketing Attribution Product of the Year last year. So we're super proud of that. But the other thing that Ninth Decimal did for us was to really kind of kickstart this period of rapid growth that we've been in over the last 3 years. So prior to that acquisition, we were a 40 or 50 person company, and talking with you here today, Sharif, we are 280 individuals strong. So,
Nice.
Really right now at the start of 2023, we're looking to continue that growth in just a smart and healthy way. And I think that brings us fully up to speed here, Sharif. I know that was a lot that I threw at you there, man. Did I explain that okay?
Yeah, no, you explained everything thoroughly.
Excellent. Any questions for me at all, or around what I just covered?
So far, no questions yet.
Awesome. Well, I will segue right into kind of a little description of our account executive team. I guess to backtrack for a moment here, Sharif, to kind of tell you why our AE team is set up in the way that it is now, I have to go backwards to the beginning of last year. And at that point, we had kind of made an organizational decision to become more verticalized on our sales front. So we brought on 5 individuals as our practice leaders. And our practice leaders are acting as just true experts in their chosen vertical. So we have one for retail, CPG, alcoholic beverage, dining, and pharma. And these folks have been just incredible boons for our sales team, opening doors that were previously very much closed and really creating opportunities that just wouldn't have been there without them. And so kind of coming out of some feedback from these practice leaders towards the midpoint of last year, we had a task placed on us to kind of rework our AE role, to be really focused on growing the incremental sales across our top 20 tier 1 enterprise level accounts. So that's really where our account executives live and breathe. Basically, you would be partnering with our senior sales directors and farming those incremental sales across the folks that have been with us for longer.
Right.
So the prospecting part of a typical account executive role is not going to be on your plate for at least the first year coming into this position. And that is truly just because of the ramp up time that we, kind of anticipate around bringing somebody new into this type of role. And then at the core of your kind of like day-to-day responsibilities with this position, Sharif, it is going to be this RFP process. So you would work really, really closely with our client insights team to develop some client-specific strategies and insights, and really work those into the RFP process. So I'll stop there here, Sharif. Any questions for me all around the role itself?
I mean, if you could just explain a little bit more about like that day to day, like what that actually looks like for the client insights. Is that more of like personalized emails, like personalized messages, like really trying to develop like a more client focused like relationship? If you could just explain a little bit more about like that day to day, like what that entails.
Yeah, absolutely, Sharif. So the client insights team, right, is one of the teams that you would be working very, very closely with. Probably just as closely just as closely as you'd be working with the senior sales directors that you're partnered with. And so what their job is they work on post-campaign data. So when we've run a campaign, could be single channel, could be omni-channel, whatever it might be. At the end of that campaign, we have our client insights managers and our data insights analysts sit down, dive into that post-campaign data, and really pull out all of the key data points and really construct a story from what happened during that campaign. And then you would sit down with that client insights manager and start constructing the strategies that you would bring back to these established clients. Working with them around, hey, we might have not hit this metric with this particular demographic, but if we look at this data set here and how, X competitor was able to reach that demographic within that market, in the future, when we run a campaign, this is what it could look like, things of that nature.
Okay.
So there is a massive amount of that client relationship building that is going to be here. And really, I mean, you are the point of contact in terms of these established accounts and our internal teams.
Okay. That makes sense.
Awesome. So any other questions for me here, Sharif?
Not so far.
Awesome. Excellent. So with that out of the way, would love to dive into, your experience and career, right? Of course, I got a chance to look over the resume that you had applied to, but I always feel like it is best to hear it from the horse's mouth.
Right.
So I, would love to have you, take it away here, Sharif, and I'll interject with any, follow-up questions I might have.
Okay, perfect. So what I'll start with is my time at Decide. Decide's a native advertising platform as well. I started as an SDR and then became an account executive. And unfortunately, as of 2 Fridays ago, they laid off me and close to like a third of the company. Just due to financials, like they really couldn't keep a lot of the people we had. It's a startup, had around 66 employees. So I think they're sitting around now like 38. But love my time there. And really what I focused on was the entire sales cycle, from lead gen to actually scheduling the call and then getting on the call and closing it. I sold a lot of things like virtually, from cold calling. I had just about a 9-touch email cadence. So I would try and have like my first or 5 touches be emails, get really creative like with the subject lines, things like their first name, my first name, meeting request. My 5th and 6th touches were LinkedIn messages. One would be a connection with a note, and then the next one would be an email message. And then that way, when I got to like my 8th or 9th touch, it really was more of a warm cold call than just a cold call alone. Outside of that, I sold like in person at conferences. Affiliate Summit East was a really good conference for me. I had closed close to 3 deals. And I have seen like a lot of similarities even between in-market and like what I was selling at Decide. We didn't use any like third-party like cookies or any data like that. We tried to stay away from that just because the trends of that going like out of style, out of market, the privacy laws. So outside of my time at Decide, I did real estate sales, which was close to like 300 dials a day, and then really a lot of like client relationship building. I like to like kind of skim the story of when I actually sold $1 million house. It was one of like my first big deals in real estate, and it took 6 months. I was representing the seller. We had multiple different buyers. We had a crazy situation where the first buyer, they had to like pull out of the deal like a week before it was supposed to close. It was some crazy stuff happened where they had some stress, family situations. They actually ended up like having a heart attack, being in the hospital, never even collected the down payment. And then their agent actually told my client all of this. So I had a very fun Friday morning that day. But I mean, just from building the relationship with my client, like I had let him know I was going to call everyone in the past who had came and seen the house, call their agent. And we ended up getting the deal closed. We found a buyer like within the next few days. But just building those client relationships is something that I definitely have done under pressure. And then I just like to touch on like the Wealth University part of what I've kind of built at my time and Decide, just in my free time, is pretty much an online learning platform. It's all automated, but I made a lot of valuable content helping people learn about like SDR roles or how to break into like a work from home job or a tech career. So I've grown like my personal account close to 75,000 followers. I've worked with a couple different brands too. RepView is one of them that has been a great partnership. But really, I've sold like in person, over the phone, built client relationships, but really see a lot of similarities just from like our native advertising solution and the digital advertising that you guys are doing at InMarket.
That's awesome. Being that we are, some folks still call us a startup. Some folks say that we're, too big to wear that badge anymore. but regardless, that's the space that we came from, Sharif. And so the entrepreneurial spirit and the drive to get out there and do something for yourself, right? That is fulfilling to you outside of your regular 9 to 5. That carries a lot of weight in this company, I can tell you for sure. So
Love it.
I love to hear that, man. I did want to dive in a little bit more into your time with Decide, right? I know one thing that the team is pretty much constantly asking about is the client list, right? So, if you can share any of the clients that you worked with during, your time with Decide and kind of, what that relationship was like, I know that they would be very interested in hearing more.
Yeah, definitely. So some of the accounts, so our top accounts, we worked with a lot of different publishers like Microsoft Network, CNN, Yahoo, Men's Health, Newsweek, and then we had like NerdWallet, Penny Hoarder. Those were some of our like top accounts that I've closed and worked with, like Inbounds.com is one. A couple of the others, just off the top of my head, I did Better.com, which was, if you've heard of them, that's like one of the mortgage companies. Quicken Loans was one of our clients. We like our bread and butter was the financial and insurance industries. So I had a couple of insurance ones, Lemonade Insurance, and then outside of that, like political did well on our platform. Even like gold offers, so like Red Rock Secured was one of them. And pretty much what we were doing was just selling B2B, finding companies who were B2C. So any company that had a good product that they were selling to their consumers, even like Angelino's Coffee, just a lot of companies like that, like smaller startups, which had a really unique solution, often did well on our platform too, just to name a few.
Awesome. So it sounds like, you got the kind of full breadth of everything from these, big enterprise level clients, Microsoft, CNN, things of that nature, to some of the more, small, medium-sized business stuff as well. That's great, Sharif. In terms of kind of the landscape of, your offering at Decide, right? Kind of give me a little bit of an idea of, what, and I know that there is no typical sale,
right?
But if you could give me kind of an idea of, what your, an average enterprise client, when they were coming back to you to do a deal or doing a deal with you for the first time, what typically was kind of included in that?
Yes, definitely. So our solution was fully managed, and what kind of set us apart from the other native advertising, so like your Taboola, your Outbrain, while those are optimizing around a CPC, views, impressions, or just eyeballs, so we would optimize around a CPA, either like the lead capture or email capture, a product sale, or a loyalty or subscription based offer. And then we're going to be using back-end data of other offers that did well on our platform in the same industry to pretty much programmatically place them on our different sites, our publisher sites, ad placements. And then our solution was fully managed as well. So we had a full in-house creative team, editorial team, data team, and then we had our account managers and our sales reps. And we were looking for just about a $2,500 test budget. Typically would last like 2 weeks, minimum spend of $100 a day per device. And some of our clients, like our good clients, could spend upwards of $10,000 a day uncapped. Like I said, basing that solution off of a CPA, say we got a $100 CPA, as long as we're hitting that one conversion for every $100 spent, our program's automatically going to say, great, I can do this again, and keep placing it until, say, we miss targets, it'll proactively pause. And outside of that, like just timeline of an average deal, really we can get anything up and running in like 24 to 48 hours if we had the landing page and the tracking information from the client. The only kind of factors that could slow that process down were compliance. So we did have to approve all of our offers through the data team, just because with that initial test budget, we were subsidizing around 70% of the actual impressions, because we were working off of a dynamic CPM. So we subsidize and kind of back into that CPA goal, just by seeing, okay, cool, we have some potential for a long-term partnership. And then at that point, we would continue the test. And then if not, we would kind of end it. But we had it always on like IO agreement. So I would say on average, like we can get something closed if it was an inbound lead, especially, or we knew that they were like serious, everything was signed, we could get it closed, done 48 hours. If it was like one of the finance offers, though, it may have had some more compliance and maybe a week to 30 days to close. But hopefully that kind of gives a pretty encompassing, like high level overview. Any questions?
No, I'm great, Sharif. That was honestly more detailed than I was expecting to get. I asked kind of the similar set of questions across, different candidates for the same roles, right? And you individually might be shocked at how many AEs will get on a call and I ask them to explain their company's product offering, and they're like, well, we play fast. And that's kind of the end of it. So no, that was great, man. I really quickly want to cover some logistical questions with you, just to make sure I've got this data in, and then with whatever time we got left, more than happy to answer any questions that you have.
Sweet.
But my two big logistic questions I got to ask. First off, Sharif, are you eligible to work for any and all employers within the U.S.?
Yeah.
And are there any non-competes in place that would prevent you from performing in a new opportunity?
No, eligible everywhere in the U.S. and no non-competes.
Excellent. And then at this point in your career, right, what are you targeting in terms of compensation in your next role?
Yeah, so I did a little bit of research. I saw like the salary range or budget for this was like 90 to 120,000. That's definitely something that would work for me. Is that still like the current budget that you guys have set aside for this role?
Yeah, absolutely. That 90 to 120 range is absolutely still on the table. I do just want to kind of temper expectations and everything, though, Sharif, not necessarily anything that this has to do anything with you specifically, but that, I would say that last $10,000 of that capped range, right, is kind of reserved for an absolute, perfect unicorn candidate. And I'm not saying that you are not that, right? Because what I think a unicorn candidate is not necessarily what the hiring team thinks that it is.
Right.
So, there is certainly the opportunity to hit that 120 point. I just don't want you to go into the rest of this process with that number in your head. It's like, that's definitely what I'm going to get.
Okay. What is so that's more like the on target would be like what, 100 to 110? And then what would you say the base pay is?
Oh, so that would be the base.
Base? Okay.
Right? So, I would say in terms of what the team would love to pay, I think like the 90 to 110 range is really where they want to live in.
Okay.
But to kind of speak to the compensation package as a whole really quickly here, Sharif, because this is another thing that is very unique to this AE role in particular, right? With the economic downturn and the wildness that has been, the economy over the last year and a half or so, we have taken the revenue goal out of the metrics for this role. So your bonus is not tied to any, dollar amount that you sell. It is 100% production based. So with that, the way that our sales team operates is on a 50-50 split, right? So what you can make on the back end, you can make on the front end. And with this role, it is no different. So you would be able to make your base, back on our bonus structure. But our bonus structure is capped at 110% of your base salary for this role.
Okay.
Should you get promoted in the next year to a sales director role, that bonus becomes uncapped completely.
Okay.
Yeah. So, say we brought you in at a base of, 100, right? You would be able to make 200 OTE just by coming in, hitting your metrics, being productive on that RFP process, and you're out the door at the end of the year with 200K.
Okay. Perfect.
Excellent. So in terms of how I move forward and everything, here, Sharif, basically what I'm going to do is take your information and the notes that I've been jotting down here during our call and put those in front of our hiring team. Basically, they just kind of give me some, initial feedback, high-level stuff. If they have any follow-up questions, they'll come back to me with that, those, and I'll reach out to you. Should everything be good, I get a thumbs up from them. I would reach out to you to set up a conversation between yourself and one of our VPs of sales.
Sweet. That sounds great.
Excellent. Wonderful. Any questions at all for me, Sharif?
Honestly, you went through most of my questions, and I figure like a lot of my questions just about like the common objections or like the specifics of the sales cycle and kind of just what that looks like working with that insights team is probably more so for the VP, would you say?
Yeah, they definitely are going to be able to give you a much more, hands-on picture as to, what that relationship looks like and everything. And so absolutely can save those questions for the next round of interviews if you'd like to. I know sometimes, in terms of like questions about the job itself, logistics or what have you, sometimes my best questions come 2 or 3 hours after I hang up the phone. So if there is anything for me that you
Right.
feel like I could address to the degree that you'd like, certainly feel free to shoot me an email, reach out to me whichever way you'd like to. More than happy to answer those for you here, Sharif.
Okay. I appreciate that, Brian.
Absolutely. But I should have some news for you, I would say by, around this time tomorrow. So I'll shoot you an email once I hear back from the team and let you know where we go from here.
Okay, sweet. I'm looking forward to the next steps, Brian. I appreciate it. I enjoyed our conversation today.
And likewise, Sharif, it's been great getting to know you a little bit here and chatting with you. Have a great rest of your Monday, and I'll be in touch soon.
All right, sounds like a plan. Enjoy your day too.
Will do. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.